Do you believe in shapeshifters, changelings, wolfmen? How far does your belief extend? Well, I have an extraordinary true story for you today which enters new territory. It is recounted by a sensible, adult woman of a truly bizarre experience that she and her brother shared as teenagers, and it just might make you think twice about who or what is living under our city streets. It was a sunny afternoon in 1985, and I was with my brother and my mother at a laundromat in Torrance, California. Mum had just bought us our first Nerf ball to share, and we were really excited to play with it. Well, my brother and I helped Mum put the clothes in the washer, and once it was all going, started begging her to let us play with the Nerf ball in the parking lot. Of course, she said no, it was too dangerous, so my brother came up with a compromise that we could play in a quiet, safe spot behind the laundromat. It was an apartment-type complex with a long driveway where we'd be safe from regular traffic. She agreed, and off we went as fast as we could to play on this quiet road. I remember my brother saying that I should stand to the middle of the driveway and that he would be toward the front. Just in case any cars would drive in, he would see them easier as he was taller. So we started playing catch back and forth, throwing the ball different ways with spins and twirls and having heaps of fun. We got pretty loud running and jumping around, and we kept hitting the sides of this particular wall of this property and the open carports that were underneath the complex. We were just normal kids playing around, I guess. After about half an hour of playing, my brother threw the Nerf ball so high and so far that I had to run and fetch it from the very last carport. The ball flew in all the way back to the carport wall, just beneath the storage compartment that each carport had. So I ran in to get it, and I got the Nerf ball in my hands, and I turned around to go back when I saw, right there in front of me, a large metal rectangular door on the ground that looked like it opened to an underground area. And there was a man there looking at me from behind the door. He'd started to lift it and come out a little ways from underneath this heavy, thick metal door. It was sort of propped up on his back, neck and shoulders so that I could only see his upper body. I was immediately freaked out and scared. He was staring right at me, and I'd been told never to talk to strangers. I was constantly told to never trust anyone by my mother and my brother. I was never allowed to go anywhere alone, so I was really frightened, and I just stood there, frozen, looking at this man. The door leaning on him looked really heavy. It seemed like he couldn't get enough strength to get all the way out of it. My only way to get past him was from either side because this door was directly in the middle of the end of the carport, facing outward. He looked at me and said in a rough voice, "What's all this noise? Why are you making so much noise? What are you doing? Why are you here?" I didn't say anything, I just stared. Then he said, his voice softened, "Are you playing?" I said yes. And he said, "Oh, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid of me. It's okay, Jennifer. You don't need to be afraid." I looked at him puzzled because I wondered how he knew my name. I never said it. My brother had been yelling at me to hurry up, but he never yelled out Jennifer. He looked like a European or Italian man, but spoke with clear English and no accent at all. He had dark brown hair that was slicked back in a very clean-cut manner. He had dark brown eyes. His skin was pale, but not too pale. He was rather handsome, I thought. His voice was light. It was nice, but manipulating. The way he called me to come toward him, I was just standing still and not wanting to move close to him at all. Well, my brother had been yelling for me to hurry up and come back, but when he saw the man that was talking to me, he stopped calling and just watched. The man said, "Come on, Jennifer," then stretched his arms out as far as he could in an attempt to reach me, and then after a while he began getting agitated with me for not listening to him and not stepping closer to him. Then, out of the blue, he yelled, "Oh no, not now, not right now." Well, this freaked me right out. I didn't know what he was talking about, or even who he was saying it to. All of a sudden, he didn't look so good. He was sweating badly, and his skin was looking weird. He looked as if he was in tremendous pain. His veins in his neck and forehead were protruding out, like they were thicker, and he was looking at me and kept telling me that to not be afraid and he won't hurt me. Well, I started to shake. I was clenching the Nerf ball in my hands and wondering why my brother wasn't coming over to help me. The man's arms were stretched so far out I knew I couldn't pass him without him grabbing me, so I was effectively cornered. Suddenly he started to scream in this deep-pitched voice. He seemed to be wailing in pain. Something was happening to his body. He looked straight at me, right in the eyes, and I saw his eyes change from dark brown to yellow in an instant, and I saw the shape of his face change right in front of me. I could hear the sound of what I thought were bones snapping or breaking. His face was becoming not human. I don't know what, but the face of a creature or an animal, but not a human. And that's when my brother yelled out, "What's happening? What's going on?" The man, or whatever he was, seemed to grow stronger in his anger, and he managed to lift the heavy door a little bit more and turn toward my brother and growled at him. He didn't yell or swear, he growled at him like an animal. Well, my brother yelled out, "Leave my sister alone," then took off to get help at the laundromat. The beast at this point turned back toward me and fired a furious look at me. It was terrifying. He now looked like what I can only describe as a dog-like creature. There was heavy hair all over his body, and his teeth were bigger. I remember vividly that his gums were bleeding. There was blood dripping down his chin because his teeth were enlarged. My brother came running back, but he was alone. I knew at that moment I needed to get past him on my own. Well, he was staring at me the whole time, looking worse with every second until he was no longer a man at all. That Italian-looking man with the nice voice, who had lifted the heavy door only minutes before, was gone. I could see that his strength was waning. This change that had come over him weakened him. It didn't make him stronger, at least not in those minutes. When my brother started yelling at him some more, he turned toward my brother and began growling at him again. But now it was really deep and had much more bass to it, with an echo, probably from being in the carport. But I saw my brother motion with his hands for me to run toward him. He was trying to distract him, you see. So I did, without even stopping to think. I just made a run for my life toward my brother. I wish I could say that I flew right past him, but that beast was fast and he grabbed my ankle tightly. His fingers, even as they were on my skin, were changing. They were moving within themselves, under the skin. I could feel it. Then smoke started coming off his skin. His skin was burning. I frantically grabbed the side of the carport for support and pushed off it as hard as I could and just ran, freeing myself from his grasp. My brother grabbed my hand and we ran back to the laundromat without turning back. My mum was there still doing laundry, and we were pleading with her to just leave the clothes. We were yelling at everyone in that whole place to leave and go to their cars because we'd seen some mad dog creature. They looked at us like we were crazy, including our mum. My brother told Mum everything that had happened, and she questioned me about it too, but we could tell that she didn't really believe us. Until she saw the pinkish bruises around one of my ankles, and I know that that had her wondering for days. Later on in my life, I asked her about the incident, and she says that she remembers how frightened we were, how we were shaking, but I still don't think she believes us. One night I questioned my brother about it in front of my husband because my husband knows, along with my daughter, and my brother pretended that it was nothing and he didn't want to talk about it. Later that night, when my husband wasn't around, my brother came up to me and in front of my mother and daughter cautioned me against talking about it in front of other people. He said what we saw that day was real and it was crazy, that the guy we saw was either a madman or some bizarre subterranean creature. You know, I wish I could turn back time to erase this experience or just the memory of what I saw, because now that I have my daughter, it makes me so worried. Could there be more of those creatures underground, right below our cities and suburban neighbourhoods? So what do you think? Could there be creatures living beneath us, in the underground, the subways, shafts and tunnels beneath our cities? With all that I've learned, I'd be surprised if there wasn't. If you enjoy these true, dark and mysterious stories, please go ahead and hit that like button. And remember, it's a strange world. Keep your eyes and ears open and be kind. Cheerio!